The $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan Act is headed to President Biden's desk, including much needed investments in K 12 education and a groundbreaking change to the federal child tax credit. Plus, President Biden issued a new executive order guarding against discrimination on the basis of sex, gender identity, or sexual orientation. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture takes steps to provide free school meals for all students through the end of the summer. Hi, I'm Philip Lovell, and I'm joined by Ann Heislip. Ann, can you run us through some of the key education provisions in the American Rescue Plan Act?
Thanks, Philip. As All for Ed's president and CEO Deborah Delisle put it, Washington is finally stepping up in support of our children. The American Rescue Plan Act is the most important piece of legislation for education since the COVID-19 pandemic shuttered schools 12 months ago and offers the relief that schools need to begin helping all students, particularly the most vulnerable, recover from this crisis. To do that, the Act invests $123 billion in K 12 students and an additional $3 billion specifically for students with disabilities. Like past COVID relief, funds will be allocated to states and districts based on their relative share of Title I funding. But unlike past COVID aid, states and districts are required to set aside funds for specific activities. States must reserve 5% of funds to address learning loss, 1% for summer enrichment programs, and 1% for comprehensive after-school programs. But we are especially pleased to see an $800 million set aside to support homeless youth, thanks to a bipartisan amendment to the final bill. Only 18% of school district homeless liaisons reported CARES Act funds were used to support homeless children. Dedicated funding from the American Rescue Plan will help states better identify students experiencing homelessness and provide them with critical services. Let's hear from the amendment's sponsor, Senator Lisa Murkowski, on why this funding is needed.
This amendment ensures that these kids, no matter the trauma and the challenges that they face outside of the classroom, will have a safe place to sleep and access to the wraparound services that they need. We have a responsibility to ensure that this vulnerable population, many of whom will be subject to predation, violence, or trafficking, is not forgotten or left behind.
Most of the K-12 funding a state receives from the American Rescue Plan will go to school districts. But unlike past federal relief, at least 20% of district funds must address students' learning loss. These interventions must be evidence-based and designed to address students' academic, social, and emotional needs. As a condition of receiving funds, school districts will have 30 days to publish their plan to safely return to in-person instruction. Another welcome addition is maintenance of equity. This critical fiscal protection, which All for Ed supported, guards against the kind of disproportionate cuts to state education budgets we saw during the Great Recession that more than tripled funding gaps between low and high poverty school districts. Maintenance of equity will prohibit states from making greater per pupil funding cuts to high poverty school districts than to other school districts.
Finally, the Act includes a priority we've long pushed, $7.2 billion in new funding for E-rate to help close the homework gap affecting 17 million children. This one-time emergency funding will increase the reach of the E-rate program and provide millions of students with high-speed home internet access and devices to support remote learning. The American Rescue Plan Act didn't garner support from any Republican members of Congress, despite the fact that the new law is estimated to cut childhood poverty in half. The Act does so, in large part, by making child tax credit benefits more generous and fully refundable. This year, a family can receive $3,600 for each child under age 6 and $3,000 for each child aged 6 to 17. The vast majority of American children and families qualify, although benefits phase out gradually for individuals earning more than $75,000 and for couples jointly earning more than $150,000 a year. Families could start seeing these payments as soon as the summer, rather than having to wait until they file taxes.
Speaking of summer, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has extended key pandemic-related flexibilities for schools through September, As we've covered before, these waivers enable schools to provide free meals to all students regardless of income during the pandemic. Meals can also be provided outside of typical times and locations, and families can pick up meals for multiple days on behalf of their students. Given the troubling rise in childhood hunger during the pandemic, extending these waivers is a no-brainer to ensure students' basic needs are met. The U.S. Department of Education has also been very busy. Earlier this week, President Biden issued an executive order to ensure safe learning environments free from discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Under the order, Secretary of Education Cardona will review the May 2020 Title IX rule released by then Secretary DeVos, which raised the evidentiary threshold in sexual harassment and assault cases in schools and in institutions of higher education. That rule was widely criticized by advocates for sexual assault survivors. As a result of the order, it seems likely that the department will either revise the rule or issue a new one to ensure students are protected against sex-based discrimination.
Finally, as we discussed on our last Federal Flash, the department is again permitting states to waive all federal accountability requirements this year. In addition to guidance published in February, the department just released the waiver application template. However, the template does not address changes states may be planning for their statewide assessment systems. We've joined with more than 40 other organizations in urging the department to maintain ESSA's assessment requirements and not allow states to replace statewide tests with local assessments, or to assess only a subset of students. That's all for today. For an alert when the next Federal Flash is available, email alliance@allfored.org. Thanks for watching.
Federal Flash is the Alliance for Excellent Education's video series on important developments in education policy in Washington, D.C. Watch online at allfored.org/Federal Flash, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or listen to Federal Flash wherever you get your podcasts.